Okay, board gaming enthusiasts, the vlog question for today. PvP board games. Your recommendations and what makes for a good PvP board game. Player versus player. I love you, brother. You're my best friend, but your answer for everything is Settlers. And yes, Settlers is PvP, and we've been playing it for a long, long time. But this would be my recommendation, and this is kind of the checklist that I look for in terms of PvP titles. And I do have a small select number of titles in my collection, although if you've been following my channel and my board gaming exploits, admittedly, I'm a dungeon crawler. Admittedly, I kind of like Zombicide, modern, sci-fi, looking at Invader, Black Plague, those type of titles. From a board gaming perspective, I'm very careful with my PvP choices, and I'm careful for those titles that I bring to the table. I prefer, as a preference, co-op games. Games where ideally we play against the AI, whether it's dice, charts, or cards, and we all kind of win or lose together. In this capacity, I find you can bring your talents to the table, and there's less hard feelings. Although, admittedly, a player can go and do something kind of crazy and bring us all down, but we're working together as a team. The PvP titles that I do have, and again, we're looking through like a dungeon crawler type lens, they tend to have the overlord mechanic, where one person plays the dungeon, the necromancer, the wizard. Conan would be a great example. Hero Quest, Descent, and the other players play the heroes. I find these type of PvP games okay to navigate because you go in knowing you're one side or the other. And you know that it's the player who's the overlord, or the GM, or the wizard, the necromancer, whatever it's going to be. Their job is to really try and beat you. So I feel like the game mechanic itself is a shield against hard feelings. Because the last thing I want to do with PvP is sit with some friends, or sit with some potential friends, and spend 2 or 3 hours and have someone leaving the table feeling hurt feelings, or feeling like it wasn't a good use of their time, or they don't want to play board games again because maybe the PvP demanded I be a little bit aggressive or try to win, looking at Game of Thrones and other type of mechanics in play. And that's not to say they don't have their place. Certainly TI, Twilight Imperium, is PvP, and you're going in with that commitment. So there are examples that I think that can be done correct. Now, ideally, and I'm a big TI fan, I'd love to get it to the table more. We get it maybe 4 or 5 times a year because it is a commitment, and you want to really get that full experience. But my grab-and-go PvP title, to illustrate, it's out of print. Or I'm pretty sure it's out of print, but there's copies available, and I'm sure at some point it will be a reprint. This is the Fantasy Flight version of the game, Wiz War. I like PvP games where you control a character, you have a bunch of abilities, and it's kind of beer and pretzels. It's kind of light. It's not going to take itself that seriously. And that's not to say the mechanics aren't going to be tight or it's going to be complex. Games that play fast, PvP, 30, 40, 60 minutes tops. Because if we can get 2 or 3 or 4 games in, and if it's light, I find if a player loses, we can get revenge. We can give it another round. We can give it another go. It's not like we sunk in 4 or 5 hours or an entire weekend and now, okay, see you next week from that perspective. So if you can get a couple of plays in. I also prefer, and this is careful, I know, right? I love you, brother. I hear you. You're like, Settlers. Bro, I've been telling you, Settlers. We've been playing it for like, I don't know what, like 20 years or something crazy like that. Settlers. I prefer games that do have a little bit of swing. Maybe with some cards like Wiz War, your deck of spells. Wiz War is a bunch of wizards running around a maze trying to blow each other up with spells. I mean, it's pretty light. The mechanics are pretty light, but it works. I prefer a little bit of a swing because that does 2 things. It creates entertainment. My hero Maximus, are you not entertained, right? This idea that I can chain a couple of spells, something blows up, it kills you, it kills me. We never could have seen that happening. And we're like, wait, What? Oh, another amazing PvP title. And the only reason I don't have this PvP title in my collection is because my good friend has it. Love you too, brother. Fully painted, decked out with the bling, dice, and the tokens and everything. Spartacus. Just absolutely, although going in a little bit more of a bloody or a different type direction. Wizbor is more kind of lighthearted. But again, in these games, swingy, something amazing happens, something unexpected happens. It creates a cool moment outside of the win-lose player versus player paradigm. And that's kind of neat. I also like the idea that with games that have a little bit of swing, even when the tactica is working against you, whether the hand isn't so great or just you made a couple of choices, right? Fritz going for tabletop glory didn't quite work out. I'm in trouble now. I'm surrounded. If I can go out in a blaze of glory, or if there's this possibility, as faint and far as it might be, where I can chain some spells, get into this position, blow up this crystal, have it explode on you. Okay, 5% chance. Let's see what can happen, right? This idea of you never really know what's going to happen. So that's kind of my criteria and my checklist for PvP. I want it to play fast. I want it to be light. I want a little bit of a swing. I want a little bit of a random. And I'd like to get multiple games in where it doesn't quite take things galactic empire, control the fate of the universe from that perspective. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys right now because admittedly my PvP titles in my collection are small. What are some of the games that I should be looking at or titles that I should be looking to acquire? If I want to bring something to the club, play it for an hour or two, roll some dice, flip some cards, and have some fun.